Joining me right now is Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. He's a spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces and joins us now. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's just get up to speed with what is actually happening on the ground in Gaza. We're told that close to 1 million people from the north of the Strip have now been starting to make their way or already made their way down to southern Gaza. There was some expectation that water is going to be switched back on in southern Gaza and the possibility of this Rafah crossing into Egypt, but only for foreign nationals, not Palestinian Gaza nationals. Has that actually happened? Is that going to be happening today?
Well, good afternoon, Julia. It is day 10 of our assault against Hamas after that brutal massacre in the south of Israel on the October 7th. And indeed, we are conducting strikes, widespread strikes. Over hundreds and hundreds of targets have been hit of Hamas. And indeed, we are now in the stage where we are encouraging people from the north, and this is day 4 of this operation, to shift from the north of the Gaza Strip down to the south. And as you pointed out, I don't know, I've not received the latest figures. Our figures earlier this morning was something around the 600,000 number. And if you're saying 1 million, well, maybe that's even better because Hamas was preventing them from going down. The situation is this: we are trying to differentiate between non-combatants, the Palestinian people of Gaza, and Hamas as a terrorist organization. With regard to, is there water being pumped in? Is Rafah going to... I know the government announced yesterday that indeed one of the main lines into Gaza of water has been resumed. The operations have been resumed. And I think it's part of the idea that people should go to the south, and there are the means in order to exist there in a safer, relatively safer area. With regard to Rafah, that's happening more on the diplomatic level. That's not to do with the military. Quite clearly, we are responsible for striking Hamas, pursuing their leaders, their terrorists, and taking out all of their infrastructure, all of the tools of terror that they used against us, and make sure that they can never, ever conduct and use the Gaza Strip as a staging ground against our people, for terrorism against our people ever again.
Let's talk about what that's actually going to involve. As you say, we've got strikes. We've actually got missiles coming out from Gaza towards Israel, and we've got strikes on Gaza as well. You've called up some 300,000 reservists. You've now got a military around the 600,000 plus mark. People are preparing to go in. We've been saying imminent for a number of days now. As those preparations are made. What is that actually going to involve? Because I've been reading some reports today that we aren't looking at something that's going to last days or weeks. We're looking at something that could last 18 months. The need to get underground, where we have this extraordinary array of tunnels, this network of tunnels. I understand something in the region of the same amount of tunnel distance and concrete used as the London Underground system. This is a huge, sophisticated network. Is that what's going to take the time? Is that what your main aim is, to get underground as well as overground?
Our goal throughout this operation, whether it's through the air strikes that are being conducted even as we speak, or if it does develop into a ground offensive, will be to dismantle the entirety of Hamas. From the leader at the top, Yahya Sinwar, who is the mastermind of the massacre, all the way down to the terrorists like Bilal al-Qidra, who we killed in an airstrike 2 nights ago, and who was one of the perpetrators of the massacre in Kibbutz Nirim, a kibbutz down south in Israel. So I would say, the infrastructure of, if the terrorists are hiding inside the tunnels, that's obviously a safe assumption, then yes, we will need to operate against those. If we need to go in, we can go in. And there are also means to, tunnels are good and bad. They conceal, but they can also be a death trap. So you can collapse them on. So while the need and the idea, there is an imminent ground operation in the makings, I would say we are taking the necessary precautions to be prepared. As you can see on the screen now, our forces are being rallied. You rightly said we have 300,000 reservists that have been called up. I'm one of them myself. And indeed, the idea of Israeli society coming together to defeat this diabolical enemy who has no regard for human life, Israeli, and I would add, or Palestinian, is something that we just need to do. So the army has no time limit. There has been no time limit given by the government, and we will do it in a professional military way, out of the guidance of distinction, the military necessity, and proportionality in warfare. And I was listening to the discussion you were having before about the generals suggesting not to do and learn from our lessons from other arenas and other battlefields. I think the most important difference between all of those scenarios is that wherever you have been conducting your battles, they have been a very, very long distance away from home. This is touching every single Israeli. I myself, my daughter, one of her friend's sisters, was butchered at the rave in the desert. So this is touching everybody. This is why Israel is coming together and so united in the need to change the paradigm. Yeah. When Hamas came in and butchered our babies in their bedrooms, they broke the rules of the game that existed. What Israel is telling Hamas now, we are changing the game and you are no longer going to be playing on it.
Okay. I mean, I certainly am aware. I mean, not only is it a very real for people in Israel. I live in an area which has got a very large Jewish population in North London, and it's very real for those people as well. They not 6 degrees of separation; it's 1 or 2 maximum for them. It is very, very real. Let me talk also about the death toll. The death toll has been rising considerably from the Hamas massacre in Israel. But we've also seen the number of hostages believed to be held is also rising. 199. We understand that around 10, according to the Foreign Secretary here, James Cleverly, at the weekend, are Brits. What is the process by which you are hoping to free those hostages?
Well, clearly the hostage issue is at the top of our priorities. We're very concerned for their safety, and I would say Hamas is responsible for their well-being. We are conducting various activities, and I really want to be very, very cautious what I say on this subject, because out of respect for the families, but also out of concern for the activities that may be taking place. So they are at the top of our priorities. We need to bring them home as soon as possible. I would say Hamas needs to release them now. You know, who abducts an 85-year-old woman? Who abducts a family, women, a mother and 2 daughters? Who does these types of things? And you know, when you even think about the concept, what they're trying to do by abducting innocents in order to release terrorists, you know, it's life versus death. This organization. It needs to be destroyed. Okay. We are concerned for the well-being of the victims, the hostages, and indeed, as you pointed out, we have confirmed 199 cases. But I would also say there are still some people that are unaccounted for. And this is now, we're in day 10. It's 10 days after that butcher, that terrible day of October 7th.
Indeed. There's a lot of concern worldwide and across the Middle East, and I'm sure in Israel and in Gaza as well, about this war spreading, concerns about Iran getting involved. We've seen attacks on the border between Israel and Lebanon, with Hezbollah making threats as well. We know the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he's been visiting, I think, 6 different countries in the Middle East. He's gone back to Israel today to sort of try and the international diplomacy to try and sort of calm things down. Are you concerned that this is going to escalate into a Middle Eastern war?
Well, I certainly hope not. But as we say in the military, hope is not a method. So what we are doing is preparing for that eventuality. When you pointed out those 300,000 reservists, many of them are already positioned on the northern front, on the frontier with Lebanon, in anticipation that Hezbollah will indeed try to conduct attacks. And I can say that we see Hezbollah operating and increasing its activities over the last few days, so much so that they've conducted several attacks of anti-tank guided missiles against forces and against civilians on the border. So we've this morning announced that we will be evacuating anybody within the 2-kilometer perimeter across the border. We're encouraging all of the community to leave. We will be taking them out of the area. And we're reinforcing the people, the positions, the military on the border in order to be prepared for that eventuality. It's around 28 different communities that we're evacuating. That's how we regard the life. We are taking care of our civilians. We see the fingers of Iran behind this. Their interest into destabilizing the region and also challenging Israel, as we are very, very, very focused on what's going on down in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip against Hamas. And I would caution Hezbollah, because they should look very closely how we are dismantling Hamas in its entirety, its organization, its institutions, its government, its operators, its terrorist factions, its facilities, it's everything that is to do with Hamas. They will no longer exist. When they take advantage of the civilian arena down in Gaza, Hezbollah need to watch and see the implications of crossing the threshold against Israel, what implications that type of scenario will have in Lebanon. Lebanon is a sovereign country. And the government of Lebanon are responsible for anything happening from there. So I would say we need to be very cautious.
Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner from the Israeli Defense Forces, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.